work and you 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 work, and it's just to pay off like your basic necessities. Everybody keeps saying it's going to get better. How is it going to get better? Our economy is so fucked that I work a full-time job. I make $21 an hour working 40 hours a week. I have no extra expenses, no bills out of my living. I have one credit card that's max because I've lived off of it, but other than that, I don't have cable. I haven't had cable in 10 years. We have cell phones, but, you know, that's required to live on. But other than that, nothing extra. On paper, my bills are $2,701. My income is $2,710. Do the math. $9 a month before I pay for food, gas, car repairs, any entertainment. There's no money for that. And my car is dying. It's paid for, so I don't have car payments now that I'm going to replace. And I don't know how to do that on $9 a month. $9 to feed myself, $9 to buy a car, $9 for insurance. Yeah. So at the end of the day, this is me because I worked 8.5 hours a day, knowing that it's not enough, that it won't be enough. Fuck you, Ontario.
Y'all want to know one real reason why America's crashing out like crazy right now? Mediocrity don't hit like it used to, baby. See, once upon a time in America, you could be real mid and still thrive. Mediocre effort, boom, you get a house, car, annual vacation, pension, hell, maybe even a boat. You could clock in, coast through the week, grill on Sundays, and still retire with dignity. But that era is dead and gone, baby. And instead of leveling up or adapting, they're mad, they're bitter, and they're not even blaming the billionaires. They blaming you. They have the audacity to blame me. They blaming immigrants, black people, queer folk, anyone they think is taking something that used to be theirs by default. See, they don't want equality. They want comfort. And when mediocrity no longer gets them that comfort, they start rewriting the rules to rig the game again. It ain't about fairness. It's about preserving the lie. The lie that being average should still be enough for them.
Greetings, family. How are you? Welcome back, and thank you for the support. So there's a quite crisis happening in America at the moment. Across small towns, suburbs, and cities, white Americans are drowning in poverty and distress. The American dream they were being promised has become a nightmare because they're still working 2 or even 3 jobs, but still can't afford rent, groceries, or even healthcare. They are watching the cost of everything rise up while their paychecks are still stay the same. So for decades, poverty was painted as a black problem, as something that belonged to black people and the ghettos. But now, more and more white Americans, they are now discovering what millions of black Americans have known for centuries, that the system doesn't care about color when it is hungry for profit, So while white Americans are beginning to struggle under the weight of inflation, job insecurity, and unaffordable healthcare, Black America has long learned the art of endurance. So let's get to see the reactions, then you come back with commentary, and kindly hit the subscribe button and share your thoughts in the comments, all right?
I am so tired of feeling helpless as a parent. Yes, my kids are grown adults. My oldest is 28, my youngest is 25. And I thought by teaching them what I learned, which is you work hard, you get a good job, you're going to get the things in life that you need, right? Worked for me. Why wouldn't it work for them? Because it doesn't. Because the world has fucking changed, all right? And now I feel like I see them struggling. And before my generation comes at me, yes, I understand struggling is a part of life. We all struggled. But there's a difference between struggling and drowning, all right? So we struggled and it was tough. But you know what? We made it. We knew there was a light at the end of the tunnel with our struggle. It seems like kids today, no matter how much they struggle, they just get further and further down the water into the drowning point, all right? When I was their age, I was making less than $10 an hour, and I could afford to live on my own. Now you have to be making six-figure salary to get a decent, tiny little place to live. So what the fuck is going on, and how do we help them as parents? I told my son, all you have to do is work hard, go to college, or join the military like I did. He went to college, got his degree, got a full-time job. He moved back in with me right when he graduated from college because he said, hey, Mom, as soon as I get a job, which was within 2 weeks of him getting out of college, maybe take me 2 months and I'll save up enough money for me to move out. Okay, cool. It's been 10 months. He has saved almost every dime and still can't afford to live. Why are one-bedroom studio apartments almost $2,000 a month? Why? Like, I just don't get it. So I don't even think that there's even classes anymore. There used to be upper class, middle class, lower class. It's literally turning into the ultra wealthy and then everybody else is just poor. Like, that's what is happening. And then I told him, hey, when you turn 25, at least your car insurance will go down. Hell no, he turned 25 and his car insurance went up $150. I tell him, if you need health insurance, get a good job. He has health insurance. He has had a medical emergency this week. Had to go to an emergency room twice. He had to go to the emergency room because he couldn't get anybody to see him with the health insurance that he had. Right? So he had to go to an emergency room. Now he's out money for that too. It seems like you can never get ahead. And then my daughter, I told her all you have to do because she wanted to buy her own house. My daughter worked 6 days a week, 12 hours a day to save up enough for this down payment. Finally got this house. She's paying double what I'm paying for my mortgage, but her loan was the same amount. And then her mortgage company, after she's already moved in, said, oh, by the way, we forgot to tell you that you need this type of coverage, which we forgot in the beginning. That's an extra $200 you've been paying a month. And all they see when they come home is they watch social media, kids their age, on lavish vacations with all this money and nothing to do, all these social media influencers, because we value those types of things over hard workers. We will pay them $10,000, but you work 40 hours a week, you can't afford it.
Don't get me wrong, I love being single and I love living alone. It's great, it's fantastic, but it's expensive. I just spent $600 on brakes on my car, just on the front part of the car, because I couldn't afford all 4 brakes and axles and rotors and whatever the fuck. And then now I just paid my car payment, which is $500, so I just blew $1,100 in like 3 hours, and it wasn't even like fun, Fuck. Sorry, it's just so overwhelming. Like, you work and 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 you work, and it's just to pay off like your basic necessities. And you can't, like, in this city that I live in, public transport, please. If I were to do public transport, it's like asking to get raped, and I really shouldn't be crying because now I have to go to another work event, and now I'm gonna be all puffy. Living is so expensive. Just keeping yourself alive and floating is so expensive. And what I was saying before I was rudely interrupted is if I were to take public transport here, especially for my job requires a car. I have to have a bunch of shit that I have to lug with me for work. And I can't do that with public transport. I'm venting. Inflation sucks. Just living in America sucks. Living alone sucks. It's great, but it sucks. Because you have to front all the expenses by yourself. I need a husband just so that I can live. So we can split the bills.
I'm an American. I pay $1,600 for a flat that has no bedroom. That's 2/3 of my income. I'm an American. I work 50 hours a week. I don't have health insurance. I'm an American. I couldn't afford to have a child even if I wanted to. I'm $7,000 in debt. I'm an American. My health is declining because I can't afford Whole Foods because that's too expensive for my life. I am very overqualified for my job, but no one else is hiring. I'm an American. I make my boss hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, while I can barely keep myself alive. I'm an American. I have never been out of the States. I have never been on a vacation. I'm an American. I make $20-some an hour. A livable wage here is like 30-some. Yet I don't qualify for government assistance whatsoever. On the days I don't work, I'm so tired I just sleep all day. I'm an American. My electric bill is so expensive I sit outside in the heat because I can't afford to turn the AC on in the damn house. I'm an American, and I fear I'm just an average American. I'm living the American dream.
60% of the American public is about to lose everything they have. People living paycheck to paycheck are about to go broke. The GDP numbers came in yesterday, and of course the economy receded, which I predicted 2 months ago, and people laughed. Mark my words, the second quarter is going to be far worse. Tariffs on Chinese products at 145% are about to kick in, which means everything you buy from China on Amazon or elsewhere is about to go through the roof. Grocery store shelves are starting to empty at Walmarts across the country, and of course grocery prices continue to soar. People who've been financing groceries on credit are starting to default on those payments. We are about to see an economic catastrophe. If you're in this 60% that has little or no money, please stop spending money. Protect your family. Trump does not care about you. Even if you voted for him, he's a billionaire. He won't suffer, but you and your family will. Please protect yourself.
So it's being said that young white men have been radicalized because they've been disenfranchised. And there's some truth to that. But I believe that their disenfranchisement has been the result of the unfulfilled promises of privilege. Like their complaint is that, I'm 27, I'm 30 years old, and I have no financial, economic, or romantic prospects. And newsflash, that's literally what people of color and marginalized groups have been complaining about for decades, for generations, about their lack of prospects in this country. That has actually actively led to their disenfranchisement, well, our disenfranchisement, because I'm one of them. But we worked and we learned our way out of that so that we wouldn't be in position where we elected into leadership our actual oppressors. See, young white men don't view or identify older white males as their oppressors because they look like them, because they're their dads and their uncles. But unfortunately, the fact that those promises of privilege have not been fulfilled for them, that the entitlement that they have been raised and ingrained within them, the fact that all of this is yours and for you and, as divine by the will of God, and none of it should you have to work for, which is part of what their complaint is, and they don't want a competitive space in a competitive world. The chant in Charlottesville, Jews will not replace us. This fear of being replaced because in a competitive marketplace, you haven't been bred for generations to compete. You have been told that you were entitled to all of it, and it is your birthright. So you haven't competed. You haven't improved yourself. You haven't built skills to put you in a place to compete with the people of color who have been told their whole lives for generations twice as hard for half as much. But again, the radicalization of these young white males is just the unfulfilled promises of privilege. But now you find yourself in a space where you are facing the same world as the groups that have been marginalized by your fathers and your grandfathers. So I think the solution is to actually find yourself unifying with these marginalized groups who have worked so hard to scale and achieve. And I know that's a big blow to your ego because you've been told your whole life and for generations that they are less than you, that they are beneath you, that they are inherently genetically inferior to you. Which I understand how that contributes to your rage, because these people who you have been told and made to believe are inferior to you have accelerated far beyond you. But that's not their fault, because they were never told that they deserved all of it by birth. It's the fault of your fathers and your grandfathers who withheld this from you. No immigrant took your job. Your father and your grandfathers and your uncles gave them to them. They preferred them to you because they will work harder for less money. The solution for you is to work harder and to unify with these people so that we all can live in a competitive society with fair compensation for fair work. And right now you're at a point in history where you have the choice to either unify with the oppressed or identify with the oppressors. Make the right choice.
Fuck are we doing, man? Is this how good it's supposed to be? Is this how our lives are supposed to turn out? If you go to college, you got debt until you're 50. If you don't go to college, you don't make enough money. People are fucking tired, man. talking to a friend. He's like, I don't even care about getting a paycheck anymore because it's like a slap in the face. You get your fucking paycheck and it's gone the same day, usually gone within an hour. And the minute you pay the bills, but they're already late, then you get an email saying your other bill's ready to be viewed. I couldn't afford the first bill. Now electric's going to go up. Interest rates are going up. Energy's going up. Most people don't even want to fucking be here anymore. You wonder why people go to the doctor for mental health problems. You wonder why people are breaking down. Why people go to work and snap, flip out, start screaming at their bosses, and get fired. Why? Because people are at the end of the rope. They can't fucking take it anymore. How much more can you take? What are we going to do about it? Is this just the way it is? I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't think anybody fucking does. But does anybody have a solution? Is there anything we can do to change this? That's the hard part. No matter how much you work, it ain't a fucking enough. The problem is, I thought about this today. We don't make enough money. There's not enough money to pay everything and have a penny left over. You're always fucking negative. And what are we going to do about it? I need somebody to tell me because I don't know anymore.
Can we talk about how miserable white people are for a second? Like, you know that white people are miserable, right? Like, have you ever looked a white person in the eye, even if they're like a big mental health person? You just look deep down and you're like, brother, you are not happy at all. And truly, it breaks my heart. But one reason, I think, one of the main reasons that a lot of white people, a lot of us are really unhappy and miserable is because we lack internal congruence. Now, congruence is a concept we learned early in grad school to help people heal. And congruence is basically internal alignment. Values and actions are on the same page, right? Like, we accept every part of ourselves. We feel peace, security in who we are, congruence. And no matter how hard you try, you can never find internal congruence if you're not congruent with the world around you. If you're not understanding what's real and seeing reality and affirming what's true. So like white people who deny patriarchy and capitalism's negative effect and oppression of the world and genocide that's happening around the world, like that's incongruent with reality. That is going to have an effect on us internally. Because to deny what's happening in real time, we have to deny certain parts of us, certain emotions, certain thoughts that come up. And the more we run for that, the more incongruent and separate we feel, the more dissonance that comes, the more miserable we are. And a lot of times we're not actually dealing with our own pain and our own reality because we're all suffering under capitalism and white supremacy. Like, it affects us different ways in intersectionality, but like it affects us white people too. You don't think a stormtrooper in the fucking Star Wars movies hates his life? You don't think he hates being bossed around all the time? You don't think poor white people living in the empire, like in a city walls, like in a Game of Thrones, like you don't think that they're miserable under it, even though they're not miserable the most? To be congruent inside, to not be miserable anymore, it takes accepting the realities of the world, seeing how those toxic systems affect us, and then moving to actually be congruent. Because deep down, humanity has goodness at its center. So yeah, white people, we're miserable because we're not congruent, because we're denying the realities of the world, and thus denying ourselves.
What's happening right now is more than just an economic crisis. It is a spiritual and a cultural awakening. White Americans are starting to feel what it is like to live in a survival mode, to check the price of everything before you buy it, to skip a doctor's appointment because you can't simply afford the bill, and to work every single day and still feel like you are just one paycheck away from losing everything. But here is the difference. Black Americans have been here for generations through slavery, through Jim Crow, through systematic inequality and redlining. They built strength out of suffering. Their ancestors didn't just survive pain. They transformed it into power, into music, into faith, and into community and culture. When everything else was being stripped away, they built something that no system could destroy. Resilience. And while white Americans face the same struggle, they are now realizing that no amount of privilege can save you from a system designed to exploit labor while protecting wealth. Poverty doesn't discriminate, but the difference lies in how communities respond to it. Black America has always known how to stretch every dollar, how to create joy from nothing, and how to build family even when there's no foundation. They have learned to laugh even when the world gives them no reason to laugh, and that's generational strength. So while white Americans look around and ask, why aren't black people complaining as much as we do? Why aren't they panicking as we are? And the answer is simple, because they have always lived through centuries of struggle and mastered endurance, okay? They have turned survival into a lifestyle, not because they wanted to, but because they had no choice, okay? What's happening today is a mirror being held up to America, a reminder that pain, inequality, and struggle has never been just the burden of one race, okay? There were always been the consequences of greed and inequality. And maybe this shared suffering can open the door for empathy, and understanding that a real divide isn't just black versus white, but rich versus poor, powerful versus powerless, all right? Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Have a good one. I'll see you in the next video.